And so let me get Dr. John on and start the conversation. Hey, Dr. John.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, how you doing? Hey, you see the book right over his shoulder, sharing Jesus online, clearly displayed. I'll cut here to my other camera. Actually, it's not in the shot, but I've got it right over my shoulder there. So very good. Way to promote. It's kind of right there. I'm in a big chair, but hey, listen, man. Thanks for jumping on here. Um, I want to. Before we get into the interview, I just want to preface this a little bit. I don't know if you've been watching the stream much. Have you met Yatope Lala? Have you interacted with him at all previous of this?
Not
Not
we've been
directly.
on similar chats where I've seen his name, but not like talking directly with him.
Okay. Yatope was supposed to be on, and his internet's wonky. And so I may interject him in briefly, just quickly in this, just to let him be
Sure.
seen.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do what he's kind of in and out. He's like lasts for like 2 seconds and then gone. His house doesn't have power in Nigeria outside of Lagos. Internet's wonky right now, and so like I
Oh
think
wow.
he's trying to like duct tape something together, and it's not working for him at this
Okay.
moment. So if it sticks, great. But if not, let's just get into it. So
Here's
all right, let's.
before we do that, Jeff. Here's what's weird. Like I'm seeing myself over your shoulder, like behind you. There's a screen behind you, the
Mhm.
Dad Galaxy. Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah.
So that's fine. I'll reference. My bald head looked awkward, but I got this best dad in the galaxy.
Yeah.
My kids bought it for me. I'm a big Guardians fan and an MCU guy,
That's cool.
and so I got some bling back there and some fun
Yeah.
stuff. But no, is the TV. Is it awkward to kind of see yourself when you're talking like twice?
No, I just wanted to make sure you knew that was that was happening.
That's funny. So I may have to move next time I do that. I'll move the dad galaxy. So like it's not. Who is Dr. John his father? Like that's weird. Thanks for drawing out the illustration here as we're opening up. No, that's good. All right. So like I've said, Dr. John, I don't know a dozen times already in this conversation. You've got a doctorate in transformational discipleship. That's fascinating. But you're a digital church pastor and many people would view those as conflicting ideas. And so
Yeah.
I would love for you to talk a little bit maybe about some of your heart and what you've discovered in digital with your transformational kind of doctorate mindset.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me on, Jeff. I appreciate every opportunity we have to chat and to talk about this topic that we both love so much. Um, when I was pursuing that doctorate in transformational discipleship, digital ministry wasn't even on the radar for me. It had more to do with realizing the gap, even in my own personal life, right? The gap between the amount of Christian education I had compared to the level of Christ likeness I felt like I should have had. And when you think about Bible knowledge and things like that, I felt like my Bible knowledge on average was pretty high, but when it came to my Christ likeness and spiritual formation, I felt like it didn't match. I felt like I knew more knowledge than I have fruit. And so I thought myself, man, well, one, how does this happen? And number two, I don't want to continue contributing to other people experiencing this same kind of gap. So I want to close the gap. So how does God actually change people? What kind of discipleship actually brings about a change in your heart, increase in Christ likeness, the fruit of the Spirit, all those kinds of things? And so that was a big thing for me to kind of relook at discipleship beyond just like the typical Christian education model, moving more towards a spiritual formation model. So that was years before digital, COVID, the whole thing. So when 2020 happened with COVID, and not just that, but the pivot that churches were making to try to do some things online, one of the things that was kind of parallel for me, a trend I've been watching, was people leaving the church, and I really felt like, in addition to some of the reasons that were talked about in some reports and surveys and things, a lot of people don't leave something they feel like is working. Like
Mm,
that's not what happens, right? And so it wasn't just about sermons or volunteering or going through the routine that people were leaving, and even some of the bureaucracy that some people were facing. But ultimately, it wasn't working for them. They weren't growing in Christ likeness. They weren't living out their faith and their purpose and things like that. It wasn't fulfilling. And so, looking at the opportunity to connect with those people online in digital spaces, that's really where it all kind of came together. And so, if you think about this idea in a Venn diagram, you have people leaving the church, people online, and how does God really change people? Like the spiritual formation. So all those kind of really came together and that's where Hearts Like His was birthed, on trying to bring all of those together, targeting the people who are leaving the church, helping them actually really experience true discipleship and true change, and and doing it online. And so, because discipleship is all about relationship, then anywhere where you can have relationship, you can have discipleship,
yeah.
and that's ultimately it. So, even though some people might see transformational discipleship and digital space being incongruent, um, that's really a myth.
And we wrote the book. It's just that's really a myth. That's I almost want to like take a segue there, but we don't have time. The So we wrote a book together, Sharing Jesus Online. SharingJesusOnline.com. That'll redirect you to the Amazon. You can buy it there. To be honest, we're not making money if you buy the book, so whether you buy it or not, that's fine. Have fun. Go to town. But the it's more about the idea of empowering normal people to be digital missionaries. We intentionally wrote the book towards normies. We talked about them on the stream. Normal people, not aimed necessarily at the pastor or the church leader, but just the average person. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, prepping for this interview. I actually started. I don't know why, but I googled sharing Jesus online for some reason, and man, it picked up globally, and I had no idea. Like I've read blogs that were aimed at like missionaries in China and stuff in the Philippines and Indonesia. Actually, it was, now I think about it, it's a bunch of Asia Pacific nations that really ran with sharing Jesus online, like the framework that we talk about. Bless, begin in prayer, listen, shared
Hmm.
experiences, eat together. This is Dave Ferguson stuff. Serve people, and then share your Jesus story. And so we adapted that framework, and that really kind of is easy to contextualize, but it really kind of opened up.
Hmm.
Now, share a little bit about like how and why we aim that at a normal person. It would make more sense to aim it at the church leader and adapt to it, but we went normal. So
Yeah.
what was your mindset? I don't forget if it was you or I that pitched it. One of us said it. It was an immediate agreement. But what was the mindset behind that?
Well, one, because there's more of them. Um, there's more everyday believers than there are pastors. Number one, if we're going to start something with a movement here, then I think we gotta target them. Number one, but number two, in a lot of spaces, not all, but in a lot of spaces, trying to focus on the pastors, it would hit a wall, and where the pastors would hinder it getting to people. And some people are actually sitting in a lot of pews all across America who are wanting to do some things, but their pastor doesn't feel like it's possible, that it should be done, or whatever. And so, kind of bypassing a potential wall there and getting it into the hands of people who are looking to be empowered, looking to be equipped, looking to go forward, and just need a tool on how to do it. But also, there are people they're already online doing it. Like, it has nothing to do with their church or their pastor or their ministry, anything like that. In their daily life, they're already engaged in these digital spaces, and so they're already on Facebook, they're already on Twitch, they're already gamers, they're already they're already doing it and they're in those spaces, but didn't know how to actually have an intentional strategy or intentional plan of evangelism and discipleship. So putting this tool directly in their hands is something that was part of the plan to help it take off and be part of a movement. When you think about the idea of Steve Jobs and Apple, and one of the things that he wanted to do was he wasn't trying to build computers for organizations and businesses. He wanted to put a computer in the hands of every person, and that's what he did. That's what changed the world. Now, all around the world, all of us walk around with handheld computers. And he wasn't trying to just pitch it to businesses or CEOs and hope that they pass it on to their members of the organizations. Nope, he bypassed all of that, and that's where the movement happened. That's where that's where everyone's like, well, we have access to this. You absolutely do, and there it is. And so, when you think about APES, for example, in Ephesians 4, the church leadership functions that Jesus gave, obviously he put them there for a reason, to equip the church and to empower the church to do the work of the ministry. But in many cases, there are some pastors and teachers and other aspects of APES who are on the cutting edge and are pushing movements like this forward and wanting to empower people. But then there are others who have a more institutional mindset and just want to build, congregations and attendance. And there are a lot of people in those contexts that are really trying to be engaged in the mission. So this tool, gearing it towards the everyday believer, the quote unquote, the ordinary believer, putting it right in their hands, it's just kind of a shortcut and a jump start to helping people get going in those avenues where they live, work, and play. And not all churches are equipping people on how to live missionally in those spaces. And so this book is a tool to kind of go directly to those who are interested, and they already have the desire. They just need a tool, and this helps them do that.
That's so good. And we've been giving the book out for free, the PDF download for it to the cohort. And so it was interesting to me. We got a lot of feedback off giving it away. When we wrote the book, we published the book, I don't know, January 23, right? This was last year. Yeah, January 23, February 23.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some feedback, but I was in a position where I was taking a break and stepped away for a while, and so I really wasn't involved much with the noise that was centered around the book. And we got when I kind of emphasized it, like just a lot of the easeability of the framework, individuals to understand it and to adapt it. It was just a lot of positivity around that. So much so I started realizing, hey, in addition to what we're doing with EDM, equipping digital missionaries, that equipping course, that cohort, we really should do something similar with sharing Jesus online, because EDM is much more of a missiological, theological kind of technical aspects of it. It really addresses the theological and the technical, but it's not practical in that. And so like the sharing Jesus online really gets more into the practical aspects of it. And so they're really getting the both sides of the coin by reading the book, but to emphasize it, like that's something, to be honest, it's one of the projects we want to tackle in 25, and already, trying to figure out. That's so funny. Dr. John and I, we actually shot an online course in 23 or 22 about it. Like, and it's funny. I was watching the video the other day. I've lost maybe 75, 100 pounds since I shot that video. So I'm a much bigger guy. I had the goatee, shaved head.
Yeah.
It's like, who is this guy? I don't even recognize him anymore on camera. So when we release it's like we'll probably end up releasing that material finally that we shot. But it's like I won't even recognize myself when I'm looking at it.
Well,
But so that's go ahead.
Look, you might be able to drop it into some kind of AI to make those adjustments for you there, Jeff.
Yeah, that's funny. So when we were in Lausanne, I think I sent you one of these videos. Did I send you the video of me speaking Mandarin Chinese in via?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a service called oh my gosh, HeyGen, HeyGen.com. And we uploaded for Lazan. Lazan suggested if you're going to come work with us, there's 7 key languages. So anything that you're going to distribute, it needs to be in 7 languages. And so it's English, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Korean, Mandarin, Chinese. Oh my gosh, I nailed all of those. English, Spanish,
Wow.
French, Korean, Portuguese, and Mandarin, Chinese. I didn't say Russian, so I must have missed something. But 7 in there. Um, and so we coded, used AI to like make all of us talk in all those languages. And so like
Yeah.
Dr. John had I'll give you the link, thechurch.digital/L4, thechurch.digital/L4. If you go to that page, scroll down to the bottom, Dr. John speaking in all of those languages. It's so accurate. It's so the video is me, my mouth is sitting in this chair, and my mouth is moving. I'm saying English, but the AI takes the English and it produces my voice in my tonality, correctly enunciating Mandarin Chinese,
Hmm.
and my hand motions are altered to be emphasized with the Mandarin Chinese, and my lips are altered to shape Mandarin Chinese. And so I sent the video to a friend of mine who speaks Mandarin Chinese, really good friend, and she called me immediately after watching it, yelling at me for learning Mandarin Chinese and not telling her. Like she could not believe it was AI. I'm like, no, I'm serious. Because I had to send her the French one, and she's like, oh yeah, there's no way you learn French. So okay, but it's and it's interesting. I want to quick, and we'll get back to it, Dr. John. I'm sorry, I'm vamping here.
It's so
Like, and
good.
that's a tool for us to connect with people in Mandarin China. Through the
Yeah.
Lazan, I had conversations with this like 80-year-old grandpa. Came over to me. He was brought over by somebody who said, "Talk to that guy." And he walks up and he says, "Hey, um, I'm with the Chinese church, Chinese underground persecuted church, and we're trying to figure out how to prepare for the future. Can you
Mm.
help me?" And I looked at this individual and I was like, "I will give you the next 4 days. Whatever you need from me, I want nothing else than to help you with that
Yeah.
problem." We ended up having several conversations off that. But like Mandarin, I don't want the church digital material to reach all of Mandarin China. I'm just using that as an example. Like
Hmm.
it's good to do that first step, but there's more to contextualization than
Hmm.
using AI to fake language. It can
Hmm.
start the conversation. It can do maybe that first generation connection. But as we talk with Ebe in India, as we talk with Utope in Africa, it's not, hey, here's our material, used AI with white faces that are doing this. Is no, let's use this material to train a generation, but as soon as
Yeah.
possible, let's help you adapt and contextualize this so it's natives doing that. It's indigenous people reaching their people, and so that's our hope and our vision
Yeah.
towards that. I'm sorry, Dr. John, that was kind of a random thing, but just had it kind of in my heart to do that. Um,
I
let's
love the AI discussion too. So it's
oh my gosh.
oh yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole other thing. Like Lazan was, we'll get into this in a little bit, but it's another conversation. Lazan's wanting us to do a research project based on digital community. And I was like, yeah, no problem. We can do that. We're raising funds for that on the Church Digital /give right now. Any donations? That's one of the projects we want to do in 25. But it was Lazan's. As I was talking with them, like we're not the only project they're working on. Like we're doing the research project, and then I think my next book is going to be based on that project. But then off of that, they want to take that and start to do like academic conversations in seminaries and really start to beat digital communities drum and some other things. And you're smart enough to understand this because this is beyond me. Um, and they were like, yeah, if we like we want to go all the way up and really we want to start a transhumanism conversation in seminaries and get that addressed. And I was like, wait, I don't. I barely know how to spell transhumanism. I'm not. I am not, and some of the people on this stream are like, "What's changed?" You don't even Google it. Like this is like way futuristic level type
Wow.
stuff, and I'm like, I'm not the guy that's gonna like I can't do research on that. I don't even understand it. And they were like, well, digital community gets to anthropomorphism, which gets us to transhumanism. And so if you can at least get the ground floor established, that allows us to work beyond that. And I'm like, cool. We're gonna nail
Wow.
that pile piece. I'll give you that, and whatever you do with that, it's gonna be awesome. Because these are words I don't even understand, but it's oh my gosh, it's so much fun right now, Dr. John. It's a blast. Um, as you okay, I'm stalling a little bit here. Let me tip my hat. The next guest is Ann Bosarge, who I would say is the number 3 smartest person in all of digital church. When she
You and
comes
all
on
these
the stream,
rankings.
I will say that she is number 1, and you're on the stream, so I will say that you're number 2, and JMO is 3. But either way, when like either of you are around, it's incredible. And so, do you have time to stick around, or do you have to go?
I think I got a few minutes.
Okay, hopefully she comes on. I'll throw her on as quick as she gets in.
Yeah.
But Ann is a pastor of the Chapel Online and runs a digital discipleship organization called discipleship.org, I think. And so excited to have her on here. Literally, she's incredible in digital discipleship space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's if I pitched to Dr. John and Ann Bosarge doing a podcast together. We couldn't, like time wise, I don't think it worked for anybody. But literally getting the two of them together and talking is going to be phenomenal. I'm going to sit back and just smile. It's going to be awesome. The 2 questions I ask of everybody that's on the stream here as we're waiting for Ann to come on. Number 1, can missions be digital?
Not only can it, it has to be. Yeah, it has to be. Because missions, too often, when people have an issue with how missions is done, the focus or the disagreement is about the methodology, and people are disagreeing and arguing over methodology. Digital missions is a method of missions, and from the very beginning, Jesus put the mission over traditions. He put the mission over socio political issues. He put the mission over gender separations and ideologies. He put the mission over racial discrimination. And he even got criticized for his methods. Sitting down at the well, waiting on the woman at the well to come from Samaria, that was a method that was not a popular one. So even today, when we're talking about missions, it's all about people. Wherever people are, the mission is to reach them with the gospel, and we need to use any means that's within any means that's effective, that's effective, that glorifies God, doesn't violate biblical principles. That's just it. I mean, the thing about this is, Jeff, we're so far into this that it's hard for me to even articulate having to validate this. You see, I'm actually struggling more right now than I was even last year on, like, why are we having to validate going to reach people because it's online or it's digital or it's whatever. And I've just stopped doing it. There was a time where when the internet first came out and people were like, the church should stay away from the internet because the internet is bad. And now churches are all streaming online, all this kind of stuff. There was a time where when Life Church first came out with the YouVersion Bible app, the church balked at that, saying you need to be flipping pages. You need to be able to highlight stuff. That's not the real Bible. And now, yeah, I think it was last year, they celebrated 500 million downloads.
Yeah.
Um, and same with the metaverse, right? People are kicking and screaming about the metaverse. Well, the metaverse got this and this danger. It's like, but people are there. And I think ultimately, those who are missional minded get it. They get that wherever people are, we need to go, whether it's a digital space, metaverse space, or in some distant jungle. They get it. But people who are just trying to preserve the church and protect the church, they're not gonna get it. And to some degree, I would throw APES into that conversation, where it's not just we generalize the church as not wanting to be missional, but there are shepherds and teachers that's not their focus.
Yeah.
It's the apostles and the prophets and the evangelists, that's their focus. And so they're always going to be looking for ways to advance the kingdom, ways to take the gospel into unreached areas, and to unreached people. Um, and they're more concerned about advancing. Whereas a lot of times shepherds, that's not the thing. They want to take care and nurture and protect those they have. And so sometimes the differences in these methodologies is really an AS issue, and it's not just an issue of, you know, all pastors think this way or think that way. Some are ready and some are not. I think it's more of an AS conversation. Um, and it just shows up in physical spaces as well as in digital spaces.
Yeah.
Um, it's the same argument that apostles and shepherds had for years.
Yeah. It's funny. You keep plugging APEST. I should give a shout out. Dr. John, apostolic prophet, evangelist, shepherd, teacher. I mean, that's Alan Hirsch 101.
Yeah,
No, it's okay. It's Bible 101, but it's Alan Hirsch really adapted that, and
yeah,
so we've had Alan Hirsch on the show several times talking about that. The Church Digital episode 300 was Alan Hirsch. Dr. John was in and out on that. That was not a good tech day for Dr. John, as I recall. He's doing much better now. This looks great, man. You're solid. This is really beautiful. But the Dr. John's doing a module in equipping digital missionaries (EDM), where he's focusing and walking through APEST and helping them not only understand their contextualizations of where they fit in the APEST schedule, but the necessity to develop and recruit others so that it's a full structure of APEST as well. But then thirdly, how do you help your people, not just you and your leadership, but your people understand APEST and do that? Now that works in physical space, but that works digitally as well. I would dare say that digitally there's even more need for APEST to come along to
yeah,
complement that because of the because everything is so new. It's so easy to look at it with apostolic eyes and
hmm
to not listen to others that are more interested in shepherding and teaching. It's very easy to look at it missionally without recognizing the discipleship piece. It's very,
yeah,
I would almost to phrase it, it's very easy to get stuck in creating content and the vision of trying to reach 1 billion people instead of realizing, hey, connect with people, get them into a community where you can disciple with them and take them to the next level and develop this thing slowly. And to me,
hmm
that was, I saw an organizational shift when we went to an apostolic, a APEST model of leadership. When I surrounded myself with others that filled some of those other gaps. Now, part of that also was we needed to make sure that they were aligned to the vision. We were all heading in the same direction. That was a challenge too. But when we got APEST-minded people who understood what their strengths and their weaknesses were, that were aligned in the vision towards this,
hmm hmm
it was night and day difference. And now to
yeah,
be able to go and start to coach others in that APEST mindset has been incredible. And so we're really blessed, Dr. John, to have you involved in TCD and helping this. One of the top 3 smartest people in all of digital church depending on the day, it's good. And so, um, you've got. I'm stalling here. Anne was having some tech issues. I don't think. No, she was. There was something there was like construction at her house or her neighbor's house, I
Mm.
think. So maybe she got stuck with that. I'm stalling for time a little bit, but are you okay time wise? Do you have to go?
Yeah, I'm
What's
good.
your
Yeah.
okay? Um, what yeah, I was going to ask you something, and I totally blanked on what it was going to be. What do you want to talk
Well,
about?
we were talking about the APES and how the shift for you guys when you went to the APES model, the difference was night and day, and then really seeing how APES in digital space is really it's an important shift. Because what I don't want to do, I mean, digital space is like a new frontier for a lot of people, and I don't want us to replicate um, s- isolating apostles, prophets, and evangelists in the digital space like we've done in the physical space, because we'll see the same thing. We'll see the church stall out, and I think that the shepherds and the teachers really shine when it comes to the discipleship. They really shine, but that new ground has to be plowed by the apostles, prophets, and evangelists, and for us to be able to do that in digital space and have that model is a big feather in the cap of of what we're doing here, and I think that's what will help with the momentum um, that I think a lot of in-person places are still trying to figure out how to start.
Awesome.